all the major milestones in your life, whether it be your wedding or you're planning like a big birthday party, you have a plan in your mind. You just write down things to the T. Like you really know where do I get the, decoration done from, who will be clicking my photographs, what will be on the menu, what is going to be the color code, everything. Because it's a milestone event in your life. Then why not for births, right? Even births is such an important milestone in your life, and even births need to be planned. Now, I'm not saying that, you have to make like an official document and a fancy stuff and keep, but you need to have some ideas. What this is actually kind of doing is also giving an insight to the doctor, to the hospital about your philosophy of birth, about your idea of birth, or what you want to be, done to feel comfortable at that time. And it's nowhere that you're going to come across as rude or, you're being too demanding, but
Mhm.
it's everything that you are ensuring to do so that you would have the most comfortable experience of your life. So I personally say that every couple needs to sit down and work on this.
I think that the importance of a birth plan at this point is abundantly clear. Can you tell us today what are the basic elements of a birth plan? Like, what are the things that you should put in a birth plan and then give it to your doctor so that they can support you in the best possible way?
So, see, when we talk about elements, there is nothing as if, like, so and so, everything needs to be kind of, there is a structure, there is a particular format that in which a birth plan needs to be made. It could be as simple as, breaking it down to be maybe pre-birth, during the labor, and soon immediately after the baby comes. Okay. Now, when I talk about, before labor or in your laboring, it would include a lot of things which can be, surrounding to your environment. Now, soon as you are inside the hospital or the center that you have chosen to be laboring in, will they be ready to dim the lights? Because we know that these bright lights are not going to do anything to you, but rather create more anxiety. Right? It could be allowing you to put in some, your favorite scents, lighting a candle or using a diffuser at that time, because probably that puts you at calm, puts you at ease. It could be getting your own clothes rather than wearing the hospital gown, because so many women feel comfortable in their own clothes. Do they have a birth ball over there? Do they actually allow you to walk, move, change positions? Do they have any additional supplies in the hospital, like having a rope or a squat bar if the woman wants to be in upright position? Will there be any nurse or someone who would be dedicatedly helping her at that time, and, just to make things easier? And the important thing that women fail to ask is, will I be allowed to eat and drink during labor? Very, very important. Many hospitals do not even they just tell you sips of water. That's it. Now, as I said, labor is hard work, and hard work requires fuel. And that fuel can be only given by this nutrition and hydration. See, I'm not telling that the woman is going to have like an enormous appetite at that time. She might not really have, you feel like eating anything, but constantly making sure that she's given some juices or some soft food at that time really makes a lot of difference. So all these things are something which are environment related. Now, second, during the labor, position is one thing. Second, what about the hospital policies and protocols? As soon as the woman enters the hospital, will she be actually pinned down on the bed with EFM, electronic fetal monitoring, or, a lot of IV lines, and, all these unnecessary things that, which will restrict her freedom of movement. So you want to understand the hospital policy. Is this going to be just constantly there, or is it just that, whenever you feel there is a need to check for my baby's heartbeat, you will be checking it? Second, checking if they will be inducing the patients. Okay. Most hospitals just have this policy of, if the woman has come to the hospital with a certain amount of dilation, or if she's already into labor, they will start the oxytocin drip to aggravate the labor. But does the woman really require it? No, not every woman requires an induction. But certain hospitals have a policy, certain doctors have a policy to just, augment the labor by just giving some pitocin or oxytocin at that time. Will your partner be allowed inside the labor room? a very, very important thing to be asked, because most of the times what happens is the partners are just allowed to come on and off, just support you for some time, and then you are alone. And soon, immediately, when you know the transition hits you and the dilation has happened completely, the baby is just going to be, they put the partners out. They tell them to wait outside. But what they fail to understand is that's the time when the woman requires the partner at that time. They both want to experience this together, and there's a lot of support that the partner can provide at that time, and just when the baby is going to be born.
Yeah.
And when the baby is born, the partner might be called later on.
That is I mean, honestly, I cannot imagine giving birth without my husband at my side. Without holding his hand, I don't think I would have been able to do it. And, because he was there, he had the privilege of being the one who cut the cord. He was the first one to hold the baby as well when the baby came out. So I think these are all things that it's honestly depriving a couple of very important experiences. If you just for the sake of, I would say, medical convenience, keep the partners out of the way.
Yes, we'll come to post-birth asking the doctor what are the rates of episiotomy, or is it done like a routine practice for all the patients? That is something women really don't even know. As you had said that you were unaware about epidural, many women do not even know what is an episiotomy. So after their birth, they'll be like, "Oh, I got a cut down there," which I really did
Yeah.
not know was happening. So this is something. But if the woman was informed, and was it really required? As you said, your husband was given the privilege to cut the cord. Not everyone gets that. So how long are you going to wait after the baby is out for the, clamping the cord? Because delayed cord clamping is something which is beneficial to the baby. So you asking them like, how long are you going to wait? And will my husband be allowed if he wants to or he wishes to cut the cord? Is that a privilege that could be given? For the placenta, what are the methods that you are using to kind of, get the placenta out? So many hospitals have different practices for that. So will I be allowed to wait to birth the placenta, or is it that you're going to give me medications to expedite the whole process? So all these little things, immediate skin to skin post the birth, immediate latching after the birth, all these things is what will comprise in your birth plan. And as you sit to make it, you will get more and more things that is that aligns with your philosophy. These are some very general things that I said, but every woman will have a different perspective and idea. For certain women, these things might not even matter. There would be other things that would matter. So but putting down these together, it's not that you go today for one of your appointments and then you will bombard the doctors with all these and then make them agitated, but slowly and slowly putting down each of these points during your appointment so that you gain their confidence. So communication is very, very important. It has to be a two-way dialogue rather than just listening to whatever the doctor is telling you to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's what, like, if they can respect your agency and because you have communicated with them in the appointments prior to birth, because prior birth is a very high stress situation. And honestly, things happen so fast that you don't even know when what goes on. So it's good to have this in advance. And, I know you said that this is all very general. Believe me, it's anything but general. What all the things that you mentioned, I know those things because I have been through birth. When I hadn't been through birth, when I was still pregnant, I didn't know about these things. I didn't know that these are things that I need to plan for, the monitors, the IVs, the movement, the things I need, what I need to do after birth with the skin to skin and the breastfeeding. This is exactly what I'm saying, where a childbirth education class would be so powerful because they can give you a foresight into what is going to happen and what are the choices and decisions you need to make. And then you use that information to create that birth plan for yourself. And sometimes, even as simple as understanding and planning for plan B. And I'll give you a very funny thing that happened is when, that 45 minutes that we were waiting for the doctor to decide whether or not to give me a C-section, my husband and I just realized that, like, oh my God, both of us have no idea what the hell a C-section is. Like, we know, okay, like broadly, sure, they put an incision and then, like, the baby comes out. But, like, I think somewhere, like, I wanted to know if they're going to do this to me. I want to know what's happening to my body. And we pulled out an animated YouTube video of a C-section. that point, after going through like 20 hours of labor, we were like, if this is a possibility, it's going to happen, I want to be able to visualize it. I want to know what they're going to do to my body. And had I gone through a childbirth education class, they probably would have educated me about it, that like, just in case things really are not working out and you need a plan B, you need an emergency C-section, mentally you're prepared for it, right? And I wasn't. In a way, I got lucky that I didn't have to go for it, but if I had to, I think that would have been a whole different set of other like trauma that I would have experienced.
True, true. What you said makes a lot of sense because again, childbirth education classes helps you to visualize these scenarios. What I usually do in my classes is also kind of familiarize them with these terms or the things that they're going to see around in a hospital setting. Now, seeing these things will kind of make sure that it kind of eliminates that fear in them. It kind of, okay, fine, this is something that I had learned in my classes. This is not something, this is not going to kind of create that fear in me. This is normal. So kind of making sure that you're exposing them to these scenarios, eliminating those fears is very, very important because they have a fair idea what to anticipate at that time.
Yep, yep. I think that makes complete sense. Mega, if anybody wants to get in touch with you and work with you and learn from you in terms of how to be best prepared for their birth, what's the best way to do that?
I'll just put my Instagram handle, that is Inizio Birth. So you can drop me, you can connect over there.
Amazing, amazing. And if you could leave our listeners with one last nugget in terms of what's the one big advice that you would give somebody who's expecting to have an empowered childbirth?
I would say take charge of your birth. Okay, just like how you took charge of everything else, your body knows exactly how to birth, but you also need to trust and believe in your body. And most importantly, trust your intuition. We were meant to give birth and we exactly know how to birth our babies. So start believing in yourself.
I love that message. Thank you so, so much for joining us today, Meka. This was one of the most enlightening conversations I have had on this podcast. And I can't wait to welcome you another time to keep this conversation going. And to everybody who is listening, if you like this episode, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if that's where you're connecting with us.